Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. A 65-year-old Australian Good Samaritan reportedly made the ultimate sacrifice last week when he was killed while attempting to help one of his neighbors during the middle of an alleged domestic violence incident. The situation began at around 10:30 p.m. on August 29th, when a woman in the Adelaide suburb of Parafield Gardens escaped from her Chester Street home during the middle of a dispute with her 29-year-old boyfriend. After running up and down the road looking for help, she came across her neighbor, 65-year-old William Brassel, who asked her if she was okay. The woman explained that she feared for her life, telling William that she believed her boyfriend would murder her if she didn't get to safety. William was in the middle of helping her when the 29-year-old man, who had followed her, allegedly attempted to attack them both while they were still standing in William's front yard. According to reports, CCTV footage from the scene shows the 29-year-old suspect throwing 2 bricks in a flat-screen TV, with at least one of these items hitting William in the head. After he collapsed to the ground, the 29-year-old allegedly continued the attack with a large tree branch. Though the woman was able to get to safety, sadly the same couldn't be said for William. A nurse who lives nearby dragged the 65-year-old into his home and performed CPR until paramedics could arrive. However, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Friends and neighbors say that they are not surprised that William attempted to help someone in need. They say that he was a kind, generous, and friendly person who had lived on the street where this week's tragedy took place for more than 2 decades. The 29-year-old suspect, who has not been identified by name at this time, was arrested immediately after the incident. He is now facing manslaughter charges, as well as multiple counts of aggravated assault causing harm. Authorities in Trans Nzoia County, Kenya say that an Olympic athlete is in critical condition following a disturbing attack at the alleged hands of her former boyfriend. According to reports, the situation took place sometime after 2 p.m. on September 1st, when the victim, 33-year-old Ugandan national Rebecca Cheptegei, returned to her home in the town of Endebess with her 2 kids. The mother and her children were just getting back from church. However, what they didn't know was that while they were gone, Rebecca's former boyfriend had snuck onto the property. The man, who local media sources have identified as Dixon Ndima, allegedly brought with him a 5-liter container filled with gasoline. Neighbors later told police that they heard the pair arguing before moments later things took a horrifying turn. Ndima reportedly poured gasoline on Rebecca before setting her on fire. Though the neighbors rushed over to help and were able to extinguish the flames, unfortunately everything happened so fast that there was little they could do to prevent most of the damage. Rebecca was rushed to a hospital with burns to over 75% of her body, while Ndima was also hospitalized with serious injuries. While the situation is still under investigation at this time, it's been reported that the motive behind the crime was an argument Rebecca and Ndima were having about a piece of land her house was built on. The 33-year-old had moved from her native Uganda to Kenya to be closer to the country's many training centers for long-distance runners. The awful crime comes just weeks after Rebecca competed in the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. She took part in the women's marathon, finishing 44th for Uganda. She had previously won gold at the 2022 World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Shortly before finishing this video, we learned that sadly, Rebecca Cheptegei has passed away. In a statement, a doctor from the hospital where she was being treated said that they had done all they could for her, but that she had suffered burns to such a large percentage of her body that ultimately the injuries led to multi-organ failure. The suspect, meanwhile, remains in critical condition, though is said to be stable. Video footage of a dramatic police operation went viral on Indian social media last week after a young man was rescued from a group of kidnappers on what turned out to be his birthday. The whole thing started on August 18th, when the victim, identified only by the name Anuj, went to visit a remote castle in the city of Jaipur with a friend named Soni. The pair were checking out the tourist attraction when they apparently caught the eye of a group of criminals. These criminals were looking for a victim to abduct for ransom. Seeing that Anuj appeared to be well dressed, they assumed he must be from a wealthy family and would make the perfect target. After being unwittingly surrounded, Anuj was grabbed and thrown into a vehicle. His hands and feet were bound, making it impossible for him to escape. Before taking off, members of the group attacked Sony, leaving him injured at the side of the road. The friend quickly alerted police, who began an investigation. There was no sign of Anuj anywhere. However, it wasn't long before the kidnappers reached out to his family. When they did, they demanded 2 million rupees, or about $24,000 US, for his safe return. The family said that they would need some time to get the money together, while secretly they continued to work with police. Unfortunately, the kidnappers were pretty savvy and continued to stay on the move, making it difficult to track them down. Finally, though, authorities were able to seize an opportunity when the suspects reached out and arranged a place to receive their ransom money. They said that they wanted it to be placed on the last compartment of an express train in the state of Himachal Pradesh. Anuj's family followed these instructions, but what the kidnappers didn't know is that police were waiting at stations all over the train line. Not long after the money was handed off, one of the suspects was taken into custody. Following an interrogation, police were able to obtain valuable information about the plans and the activities of the criminal group, specifically the location where Anuj was being kept. He was being held hostage at a hotel in the city of Solan. After learning this, Jaipur police conducted an early morning raid at the building. Footage of the raid, which has since gone viral on social media, shows officers waking Anuj up and informing him that he is being rescued. The young man can be seen breathing a sigh of relief as he takes in what the officers are saying. It turns out that the timing couldn't have been better, as the morning that the raid was carried out happened to be Anuj's birthday. He has since been returned safely home, while several of the people accused of his kidnapping are now under arrest. Police say that the mastermind behind the crime is a man named Virender Singh, a software engineer and businessman. Authorities have alleged that Singh planned the crime because his business was in trouble and he needed quick cash. The other suspects involved are said to be the man's childhood friends. At the time of this recording, police say that they are still searching for at least one additional suspect. Authorities in the English county of Leicestershire say that they are investigating a truly shocking crime this week, after an elderly man was the victim of a fatal attack, a crime that was allegedly carried out by a gang of young teens and preteens. The incident began sometime after 6:30 p.m. on September 1st, when the victim, 80-year-old Bim Sen Kohli, was walking through Franklin Park in Braunstone town. Bim had been out walking his dog Rocky and was reportedly less than a minute from his house when he was assaulted by a group of local kids. It's now alleged that the group pushed the elderly man to the ground before kicking him in the neck and spine. Bim was found several minutes later underneath a tree after screaming for help. When neighbors rushed to his aid, he couldn't move his legs and was in severe pain that was apparently able to explain some of what had happened. He was rushed to a hospital not long after, though sadly his injuries proved to be too much. Though he was active for his age, he suffered from osteoporosis and was quite frail. He was pronounced dead the following day. After launching an investigation, police announced that they had arrested 5 suspects, all of whom were disturbingly young considering the severity of the crime. They have not been identified by name, but 2 are said to be a boy and a girl who are 14 years old, while the remaining 2 boys and 1 girl are just 12. Despite their ages, residents in the local area say that the youths had been causing a number of problems recently. In fact, several have now alleged that they had specifically been harassing elderly South Asian people and may have had an altercation with Bim specifically prior to his murder. According to these residents, Bim had recently gotten into an altercation with a group of kids who were sitting on top of his neighbor's garage. When the 80-year-old told them off, he was allegedly verbally abused, spat on, and pelted with rocks. He reported this incident to the police, though it was apparently 3 days before they even came out and took a statement. It's unclear if this is the same group of kids who attacked him, though police say that they are now looking into that. Those who knew Bim described him as a sweet old man who wasn't a threat to anyone. Originally from India, he had lived in the area where he was killed for more than 40 years before this week's incident. Locals said that he could often be seen taking his dog out and going to one of his 3 community allotments, where he spent a lot of his free time gardening. At the time of this recording, all but one of the suspects has been released on bail. The 14-year-old boy currently remains in custody, though it appears none of the 5 are yet facing formal charges. The investigation is still ongoing. Authorities in Singapore say that a 27-year-old man is facing prison time this week after he pleaded guilty to several charges related to a violent attack on his older brother, a crime that was allegedly the culmination of a years-long sibling dispute that finally went off the rails. According to local media, the incident took place in June of 2023, a couple of months after the culprit, 27-year-old Daniel Fok Ming Chai, moved into his father's apartment where his 32-year-old brother and younger sister lived. Chai's parents had divorced more than 20 years earlier, and until recently he had been living with his mother. She had recently left her rental property and gone to live in her shop. Chai was invited to come along, however he decided to make the move to his father's place because his computer was already there. This was despite the fact that he and his older brother had apparently never gotten along. On the morning of June 16th, Chai awoke to find that his brother had left used dental floss on his toothbrush in their shared bathroom. He responded to this by grabbing an aerosol can and lighter and using it to burn a soap holder, apparently knowing that this would make his brother upset. When the 32-year-old discovered what had happened, he escalated things by turning off the Wi-Fi inside their home and doing other unspecified things that he thought would irritate Chai back. He was right, though ended up getting more than he bargained for, because apparently this is the point at which Chai completely snapped. After grabbing his homemade flamethrower again, the 27-year-old proceeded to light his brother's bedroom door on fire. When the man ran to see what was happening, Chai attacked him with a 6-inch long knife. The 32-year-old suffered multiple lacerations to his right hand, chest, and right leg. He survived, but ended up in the hospital for 4 days, and according to reports, will likely have permanent nerve damage to his forearm, thumb, and fingers on his right hand. This week, Chai pleaded guilty to a charge of voluntarily causing hurt with a dangerous weapon. Authorities say that 2 charges of mischief by fire will also be taken into consideration during his upcoming sentencing. Chai's lawyer, meanwhile, has argued that the actions of his 32-year-old brother should also be taken into account. Speaking to the court this week, he said in part, quote, "The victim was the one who abused my client. The victim was trying to agitate my client on the day of the incident. He was deliberately trying to annoy my client out of the house." Chai will officially face sentencing on September 19th. Authorities in the Thai province of Pathum, Thani, say that a man and woman are dead this week after a years-long dispute with one of their neighbors boiled over following an argument over cat poop. According to reports, the incident took place sometime on September 3rd, when the victims, identified as a 45-year-old man named Narongwit and a 54-year-old woman named Tada, were confronted by one of their neighbors, 32-year-old Siddhachok. Siddhachok was angry because the couple's cat had been pooping outside of he and his parents' house for quite some time. This had been a frequent cause of tension between the couple and the neighbor family, though on this particular day the situation would tragically escalate. Following an argument about the cat poop, the couple and Siddhachok temporarily went their separate ways. However, when Narongwit saw Siddhachok a short time later, he apparently continued to prod him about the dispute before getting on his motorcycle and riding away. That's when Siddhachok allegedly grabbed a gun from his home that he had recently purchased. As Narongwit and Tada arrived back home on the vehicle, he reportedly opened fire on them, killing them both. Siddhachok turned himself in later that evening and apparently confessed to what he had done, though claimed that he had been provoked. He stated that the victims had antagonized him and his family for years, and in particular would make disrespectful comments about his parents. The cat poop thing had been an ongoing part of the feud, and it seems that this was finally the thing that caused the whole situation to boil over. Siddhachok's sister told local media, quote, "My brother, who is usually quiet, was likely infuriated by their continuous insults towards our parents. The argument about the cat defecating in front of our house yesterday pushed him over the edge." At the time of this recording, the 32-year-old is facing charges of premeditated murder as well as firearms violations. Police say that they are still looking for the weapon allegedly used in the crime, which Siddhachok told them he had discarded in a local river. Officials in Brazil say that a woman has received a lengthy prison sentence this week, more than 7 years after she masterminded and ordered the deaths of 3 of her own family members as part of a greed-driven plot to claim the entirety of a large inheritance. The case began in the early morning hours of February 17, 2017, when police were called to a home in the municipality of São Gonçalo, located just northeast of Rio de Janeiro. When officers arrived, they found 3 people inside, all of whom were suffering from gunshot wounds. They would later be identified as 43-year-old lawyer Wagner da Silva, his 38-year-old wife Soraya Gonçalves Rezende, and their 10-year-old daughter Giovanna. Giovanna and Soraya were pronounced dead at the scene. Wagner, who had sustained 3 gunshot wounds to the head, was barely clinging to life, though sadly, he would succumb to his injuries as well at a local hospital. According to local media reports, the attack was incredibly brutal, and it was clear that the family had been asleep in their beds before they were the victims of the terrifying home invasion. After launching an investigation, attention quickly turned to Soraya's sister, Simone Gonçalves Rezende. Upon digging into the family dynamics, police learned that there had been a dispute over a family inheritance worth approximately 7 million Brazilian reais. It turned out that Soraya was adopted, and therefore Simone felt that she was entitled to their parents' entire estate. Authorities eventually uncovered a chilling plot orchestrated by Simone, involving 3 men, one of whom was her son. Simone reportedly had the accomplices carry out the triple murder so that she could claim the full inheritance. The whole thing recently went to trial, with all 4 of the suspects being convicted. Simone's son, Mateus, was sentenced to 49 years in prison, while the other 2 male accomplices got 50 years each. As the mastermind of the scheme, Simone herself was sentenced to 54 years in prison this week. Authorities in the German state of North Rhine-Westphalia say that they are investigating the aftermath of a terrifying incident this week after a 32-year-old woman allegedly attacked a bus full of people as they were on their way to a local festival. The incident took place at around 7:40 p.m. on August 30th in the city of Siegen, located about 50 miles east of Cologne. It was the first evening of a festival that was celebrating the 800th anniversary of the city, and the bus in question was operating as part of a special route designed to transport attendees to and from the area. According to local media, things took a sudden and terrifying turn for the more than 40 people on board when a 32-year-old female passenger got up and pulled out a knife. She began rambling to herself incoherently before attacking people and stabbing them at random moments later. A witness later told reporters, quote, "It was absolutely terrible. The woman was out of her mind. I've never experienced anything like it." Thankfully, the driver of the bus quickly realized what was going on and pulled over, opening the door so that the terrified passengers could escape. Most immediately fled from the vehicle, with some reportedly so panicked by what had happened that they ran off into the nearby woods. Unfortunately, not everyone was able to make it out unscathed, though. A total of 6 people were stabbed during the attack, with 3 of them said to have sustained life-threatening injuries. The victims' names have not been released, though they are said to be between the ages of 16 and 30. When police and emergency responders arrived at the scene, they were able to arrest the 32-year-old suspect without incident. 3 knives were reportedly found on her person. If you're a regular viewer of our Crimes of the Week International series, you'll know that Germany was already on high alert due to a knife attack at another festival in the city of Solingen that happened on August 23rd. However, unlike that crime, police say that this week's incident is not believed to be terror-related. The exact motive behind the bus attack is still under investigation, though according to local media sources, the woman has a history of both drug abuse and mental illness. So far, authorities have identified her only as Lisa Maria C., and they say that she is a native German citizen. The 32-year-old's apartment, where she lives with her parents, was subsequently searched, with police stating that they had recovered important evidence. Among this evidence is said to be internet search history, suggesting that she had researched bus routes before carrying out the attack. The most detailed information we were able to find comes from the German media outlet Bild, who reported that Lisa Maria C.'s family members had previously tried to get her admitted to a mental health clinic. However, the family has claimed that they were turned away because there were not enough spaces for her. At the time of this recording, the 32-year-old remains in custody, though it's unclear if any formal charges have been laid. At least 3 of the victims have since been released from the hospital. However, we were unable to find updates about the others. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.